In 2008, I was ready for a change. At the time, I was working as the executive director of a small music school in the suburbs of Chicago. It was a decent job for a guitar player. I got paid a respectable salary to teach and oversee the music program, but it wasn't my dream job exactly, and I was getting burnt out on teaching music after 7 years, and I was growing a passionate disdain for my boss at the time. I hate to say that, but it's true. I grew to dread the idea of working and being around this particular person. The longer I was there, the more motivated I became to make a change. I used to get a queasy, uneasy feeling just being around my boss. This was no way to spend my days. I had to get out. I had dabbled in internet marketing for a couple of years at this point, so I knew the basics of things like how to set up a website, how to accept payments, how to create ebooks, and so on. I had the basic tools to get going online. What I lacked, though, up until this point, was a really good idea. This is arguably the hardest part. Most people who grew up around computers like I did could figure out how to set up a website and collect payments online, but unless you have a good idea, none of that really matters. By 2008, I had become relatively experienced in the music licensing industry. I had worked with a publisher for several years at this point and had licensed a few of my own songs. I certainly wasn't the most knowledgeable about the topic, but I knew more than most musicians I worked with seemed to know about the business. I would constantly get questions from other musicians about how the music licensing business works. As I was trying to figure out what business I could start online, an idea came to me. What if I could teach other musicians about how they could license their music in TV and films like I had? There certainly seemed to be a lot of musicians interested in learning more about licensing, but did I know enough? Was I enough of a quote-unquote expert to start a business teaching others? Well, it turns out, yes, I was. And the proof is that I've been making a full-time living since about 6 months after I started in 2008 and have been growing every year ever since. To be an expert, you just need to know more than those you're teaching. That's really it. The rest you can figure out as you go, at least with many topics. I don't expect you to teach a course on quantum physics just because you read a book about it, but with many topics, it really just takes a good grasp of the basics to get started. The funny thing is, I now consider myself one of the most knowledgeable voices about the licensing business out there. And I should be. I've spent the last 4 years getting a world-class education about the business every day. I've written books about it. I've done interviews about it. I've given courses on it. And the best part is, instead of paying for my education, other people have paid me and continue to pay me. So if you're going to start an information business online, first you have to figure out both what you're passionate about and what others want to know more about. I love the licensing business. I love reading about it and writing about it. I love participating in it. And so the quote-unquote work that I do doesn't really seem like work. It's fun, and I get to further my own career at the same time I'm helping others. It's really an exciting feeling. As a musician, you have lots of possibilities when it comes to selecting niches. There are lots of untapped niches. A lot of these, if I had more time, I would do myself. But here are just a few ideas off the top of my head. For example, you could teach people about how to book tours. You could teach people about how to book gigs. You could teach people about how to produce music, how to write hit songs, how to market music, how to license music in a really specific niche, for example, video games. You could teach people about how to form a band, how to make a living teaching music online. You could give lessons online. You could teach people about how to write musicals, how to make music videos, and the list goes on and on. I'm sure there are many, many more niches you could come up with that you could build a business around. Now, in my last video, I emphasized the fun that I have in my life and the freedom that comes with being your own boss. And it's true. I love my lifestyle. I live a life that many envy. But I'll be the first to tell you that there's a lot of work involved. Starting your own business will require serious effort. I'm sorry to break that to you, but the feeling of quote-unquote working for yourself and building something that will sustain you and your family for years to come, and the feeling that comes with working for someone else and helping them reach their goals and achieve their dreams are two very different things. It doesn't really feel like work when you're doing the former. So if you want to create a more flexible and meaningful life, think about what topics you're both interested in and knowledgeable about. and you want to be more knowledgeable about, and what topics others are interested in learning more about. Where these two things intersect is where great business opportunities lie. I'll have another great video for you in a few days, so keep your eyes peeled for that.